Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again doing another discography countdown today. And today we are going to be talking about Finnish power metal legend Sonata Arctica. What can you say about these guys? I mean, their early material is like the stuff of power metal legends. They started out in the late 90s, really put out a bunch of really awesome power metal records. Then they really transitioned more to almost like a prog metal, prog rock kind of experimental band, still mixing in a little bit of power metal here and there. This band's always known for a heavy use of keyboards, not just with like the melodies, but also with the solos, especially back in the power metal days. They'd kind of do trade-offs of keyboard solos and guitar solos and really gave it this unique flavor, really awesome back and forth with that. Really has a very much like European power metal feel to the early stuff, but very like poppy choruses. Like this is very happy metal. It puts you in a good mood for sure. This is not stuff to be taken too seriously. It's generally going to put a smile on your face. They write very catchy stuff. Yeah, like very feel-good stuff, but all the musicianship is always great. The vocals are very unique. His name is Tony Kakko. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He's been the one mainstay in this band from the get-go until current. He does all the songwriting, does the vocals, does most of the keyboards too. Not necessarily the keyboard solos, but the keyboards in like the general sense of writing the song and whatnot. But yeah, they have 10 studio albums. I'm going to rank them from my least favorite down to my favorite. I will preface this by saying I really only truly enjoy about half of their albums. There's like, yeah, half of them are really fucking awesome. Then there's a few that are like decent to okay. And then there's a couple that I really can't stand. So if you love all of their albums, you might not like all the comments that I have on these first few albums I'm going to talk about. But these are just my opinions. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. But that being said, I do still hold this band in high regard for their early material because those things are fucking awesome. So anyways, let's kick this list off. Coming in last place, 10th, my least favorite Sonata Arctica album is actually their most recent one from 2019, titled Talviyö. This one, I don't really consider it a metal album at all. It's definitely more of just like a rock album. There's maybe a couple metal elements, but I just find this one, like, it's very basic songwriting. It's not that engaging. I just don't really like this album. I never was able to get into it. I've only listened to it a handful of times, but it just never clicked for me. If I had to pick best songs on here, like the best song is probably the instrumental that's on here. It's called like Ismo's Got Good Reactors. Message from the Sun, the opening track, is okay, but it just never really gets better from there. Like I honestly would only give this album like 4.5 or 5 out of 10. I will probably never go back to it. I re-listened to it to make this ranking. And yeah, my opinion hasn't changed from what it was a couple years ago. Probably not an album I'm ever really going back to. And easy choice for me to come in 10th place. Up next at number 9, going to 2007 with the album Unia. This one really was like their transitional album. This was their 5th album. Their first 4 were definitely more on the power metal feels. This one really went in a progressive direction. There's like, yeah, it's not, I wouldn't consider this power metal at all, really. It's like, yeah, very experimental, very progressive. There's not really any fast songs either, which is what they were known for. So when this album came out, I was really disappointed actually, because the first 4 albums were so like upbeat and just great power metal albums. And then this came out and really threw me for a curveball. I really like the earlier material better. This was definitely a start of a new direction for the band, and I'm all for going in a new direction, experimenting, trying new things. Obviously, the musicians in the band need to be happy with what they're playing. If they didn't want to play power metal anymore, so be it. It's not that I don't like any prog metal or anything like that, but I just find this album kind of just plods along at a very slow pace, and it's just not that great. This one's just not for me. I don't enjoy it that much. Couple okay songs on here, Paid in Full, It Won't Fade, The Harvest is okay, but I can't really give this album more than like 5.5 out of 10. Another one that I just don't really ever go back to. Up next at number 8, I'm going from 2016 with The Ninth Hour. So this is their second most recent album, or their 9th album overall, aptly titled The Ninth Hour for their 9th album. This one, once again, I find it a little bit boring. This album kind of doesn't really know what it wants to be. It's got a little bit of like power metal in there, then some different kind of songs, some straight ahead like pop rock songs, some, of course, ballads. They're always known for having some ballads. And yeah, even though the songwriting is very varied, it never really clicked with me either. Like there's a couple bangers on here, but bangers in this later stage Sonata Arctica definition of the word. Anyways, like the song Life is okay. Fairy Tale is pretty good. It's got White Pearl Black Oceans Part 2, which is a longer, decent song. But all in all, I can still only give this one like 6.5 out of 10. I don't mind it as much as number 10 and number 9 on my list. This one is at least getting into like decent territory. It's listenable. I might still put this one on from time to time, but it's not really the Sonata Arctica album that I'm going to go grab if I'm in that mood. So now let's move it on to number 7. The next couple albums, I rank them very similarly, my number 7 and my number 6. These are ones that I consider decent, maybe not on the excellent level, but they're definitely decent and they're listenable. So coming in at number 7 from 2009 is The Days of Grays. This was a follow-up to Unia, and it's a clear step up from that album to me. It's still very much like a prog metal album as opposed to like the old power metal style, but there's a little bit more speed than on Unia. There's like, it's not the fast tempos of old, but it's a little more mid-paced, some slower tracks, some faster tracks. I'd say it's definitely a grower. Like if you only listen to this album once, it might not stand out, but on repeated listens, some of the songs start to stick in your head, and it is catchy. Like this one, like I said, it's decent, maybe not on the excellent level, but it's getting closer to like 7 out of 10 territory. I'd put this one maybe like 6.8 out of 10. A couple of the best songs on here, The Last Amazing Grays. Flag in the Ground is kind of a throwback song, which is pretty good. Like all in all, yeah, this album is decent, but we're not quite into the excellent stuff yet. Let's move it right along. Up next at number 6. This one is basically right on par with The Days of Grays. It's the album that came right after from 2012, titled Stones Grow Her Name. This one's got definitely like a brighter feel than the last two albums. Unia and Days of Grey were both kind of like darker albums for such a usually happy band. But yeah, this one's just, it's more fun, this album. It's still got that prog rock feel, but there's definitely some catchy like poppy power metal songs in there too. Almost going in like a commercial pop rock feel, some of the songs, which is not necessarily my cup of tea, but there's a lot of variation in these songs. Maybe it's a bit of a mixed bag, a little inconsistent, but there are some good songs on here that redeem the album as a whole. This one I would give like a 7 out of 10. Best songs on here, I Have a Right, Losing My Insanity is pretty catchy, Only the Broken Hearts, Make You Beautiful, I think it's called. Yeah, all in all, like I said, pretty decent album. Definitely still has re-listenable value. It's just not in my top tier albums by this band, but it's getting there now. Let's get into the top 5 where it gets pretty fucking good. So coming in at number 5 from 2014, their third most recent album, so they did still have some good stuff later on. This album is titled Pariah's Child. This one's definitely like somewhat of a return to the power metal form. They kind of wanted to do a throwback to the past. They even brought back like the wolf on the cover of the album and changed their logo back to their original logo when they were a straight up power metal band. But it still kind of mixes in like the newer prog style with the old power metal. So it's not just straight ahead speed power metal like the old stuff. But this one is very enjoyable. I actually listened to this album a lot when it came out. I can't put this above 8 out of 10 for sure. It's still probably only like 7.5 out of 10, but that's still pretty fucking decent, especially with the way that their later career was going, where I didn't like most of their albums. This one still is a standout, and I still go back and listen to this one. It's a fun album, and it's got catchy-ass songs. Best songs on here, The Wolves Die Young, super fucking catchy. Cloud Factory is probably the catchiest song on the album. Blood is pretty fucking good. Larger Than Life is a long epic at the end of the album. Like I said, this one's right around 7.5 out of 10 for me. Very enjoyable album. Definitely has re-listenable value. And now let's get into the classics. You'll notice if you know Sonata Arctica that I haven't named their first 4 albums yet. those are going to be my top 4. That's my favorite era of the band, when they were a straight ahead power metal band. I fucking love these albums. I hold them in very high regard. Maybe their discography as a whole isn't up there with some other power metal bands, but these first 4 albums, they fucking are. These ones are absolutely awesome. Let's see what order I've got them in. So coming in at number 4 is their 4th album from 2004 titled Reckoning Night. This one's definitely, like I said, still a power metal album, but you can kind of see the progressive direction that they would go on subsequent albums. They've changed it up a little bit on this album, but it's still fucking fast tempos and really good fucking songs. Definitely a little more variation in the tempos than their previous albums, and maybe a little bit inconsistent, but overall this is very enjoyable. This one I would give 8 out of 10, just on the cusp there, borderline 8.1 out of 10. Best songs on here: Misplaced, Don't Say a Word is a hit, that's a really good one. Ain't Your Fairy Tale, White Pearl Black Ocean's a really long epic that's really fucking good. Yeah, this one probably their last true power metal album, other than maybe Pariah's Child was kind of a throwback, but this one is the end of an era, I guess you could say, and it's a fitting way to end it. It's a great fucking album, easily in my top 4. Up next at number 3, I'm going with their 3rd album. This one's from 2003, titled Winterheart's Guild. This one is just fucking melodic power metal at its finest. It's really in line with the first 2 albums. There's maybe slight touches of prog influence, but basically this is just melodic power metal. Very fast, crazy solos, great musicianship. The keyboard solos with the guitar solos, absolutely awesome. Yeah, it's just, this album's even got like a great wintry atmosphere to it, which the keyboards really creates this fucking great atmosphere, which a lot of power metal doesn't really do that, but they really use the keyboards well here. Best songs on here: Abandoned, Please, Brainwashed, Exploited. That's the opening track. Really fucking in your face, awesome song. The Cage is great. Victoria's Secret, Champagne Bath might be my favorite track on the album. All in all, like front to back, this is a very enjoyable power metal album. And yeah, this one I would probably give like 8.6 out of 10. It's getting into the really fucking good stuff now. Like anything over 8 is pretty solid. Over 8.5, fucking amazing. Over 9 is next level. And now let's get to a couple albums that I think are both over 9. Those are their first 2 albums. Let's see which one I got 2, which one I've got 1. Coming in number 2 for me is the debut from 1999, Ecliptica. This album is just so much fun, especially for a debut. Like, fuck, man, the lyrics maybe aren't great. That's like the only knock on this album, but that's okay. The music more than makes up for it. It's just really like a constant flow of heavy, fast, and then melodic and slow songs. Like, there's a lot of ballads on this album, but then it kicks right back in with the next song with a really melodic, fast song. Hooks for days. Like, this is a power metal staple. If you love power metal, you gotta listen to this album if you never have. The vocals are great. Musicianship is off the charts. It's just fucking awesome. Like, almost this whole album is amazing. Blank File, the opening track, fucking awesome. Kingdom for a Heart, super catchy. Full Moon is kind of a ballad with some really nice piano intro, and I fucking love it. Maybe it's cheesy. It's like about a werewolf. But that chorus is just fucking so good. Run away, run away, run away. So fucking awesome. Destruction Preventer is probably my favorite track on the album. That's the closer. It's an epic. It's so fast. The guitar work is fucking awesome. Like, pretty much every song on this album is awesome. The only reason I maybe have this one 2 instead of 1, the one track I don't really like is Letter to Dana. I could do without that song. If I took that off this album, it's almost fucking perfect. But it is on there. I can still listen to it. It's my only knock on this album. I would still easily give this album like 9.1 out of 10. One of my favorite power metal albums ever, for sure. But that just leaves one. My favorite Sonata Arctica album, a power metal staple, is their second album from 2001 titled Silence. I actually have a poster for that one up there. Easily one of my favorite power metal albums ever. This album is just packed with hooks. The vocal melodies are so fucking catchy and amazing. Like, they're so goddamn good. So it's very similar in style to the debut. Still lots of ballads, but lots of fast songs too. And you can just hear the passion in these songs. Like, the vocals are just great. And it's just an excellent execution of power metal. Every musician is on the top of their game. The keyboards are awesome. Guitars, drumming, singing, everything on here is great. best songs on here. Web Allergy is fucking awesome. False News Travels Fast. Sound Sebastian, absolutely amazing. My two favorite tracks are probably Wolf and Raven, which is probably my favorite Sonata Arctica song, and also the closing epic track, The Power of One. It's maybe a little bit underrated of a Sonata Arctica song. It's fucking amazing, absolutely awesome. Anyways, these are just my opinions as usual. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What's your favorite Sonata Arctica album? Do you like their later stage material? I don't too much, but I appreciate and respect everyone's opinion. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. What's your favorite albums by them? What did you think of my list? Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.